I'm Justin Davis, and this is Joe Camp's RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I might have a quad on the bench here that might just be another candidate for quad of the year for 2018. This is probably one of the best releases so far that I've gotten from GearBest. This is the Helifar FUUTON 2, and is it better than the original FUUTON that we have? To my right here, it actually is, and it's got a lot of new components on here that we're going to talk about. We're going to do some line of sight flying. We're also going to do some FPV field testing out here in this huge open field that I have. But first, let's go ahead and dive into the parts. I'm going to talk about what makes this one so special. And we're also going to kind of do a 3-in-1 type of review today. I have a couple different things here to show you as well. I have a little super micro cam on top of here. This is the Firefly 1080p micro cam that has an SD card slot in the side, and it runs for about an hour. But what's awesome about this is it's super lightweight. I'm going to talk about the specs on this a little bit in the review. And we're going to show you some of the footage on this. You can put this on a micro brushless or a 5-inch racer, but very versatile little camera, and it has great reviews. So I'm looking forward to showing you that. Also, we're going to use and talk about the new Furious FPV Dock King. This is a little ground station for FPV racers. It does a lot of stuff, and it has a ton of features packed into this. So we're going to do some testing with that today as well. Now, this quad does look very similar to the Floss that I've seen out there. Everyone's flying the Floss, and everyone loves the Floss. It has super thin arms. And this one doesn't have a 4-in-1 ESC on here. It actually has 32-bit ESCs that are out on the arms, and those are 30 amp ESCs. So I'm suspecting that we can run this 4 to 5S. I'm not going to try 5S today because I don't want to blow anything up for you guys, but we're going to test everything on 4S and see how that does. Now, also on here, it does have some pretty top spec components. The flight controller is an all-in-one ESC and flight controller combo from Kahoot, and it is the F4. So that's a pretty decent flight controller on here. I've run the Kahoot F4 before, and this is the version 2 of that AIO all-in-one system. So we're going to see how that performs with the stock Beta Flight PIDs on there. I think it's going to do pretty good. Now, also on here, we have a RunCam Micro Swift on here, and that is the version 1 of the Micro Swift. It's not the version 2, so you won't get any OSD on there, but it does show Beta Flight OSD, which is configurable inside Beta Flight, which is super nice. And I have the 2.3mm lens on here. I do prefer the 2.1 as well, but this one is going to do for today, and I think it's going to look great. It is a little bit overcast today, but we'll see how that performs. I'll show you some DVR footage of that, as well as from the Firefly camera. The FUUTON motors are 2305 and 2400 kV, so just to compare them to the older FUUTON right here on the right, you can see that motor is just a little bit taller. The newer motor is going to have more power than the original, and it does look to be a little bit beefier, so we'll see how that works out with our power sag on our battery, but hopefully it doesn't sag too much. Now, I saw another reviewer said that they didn't think that these were 2305s. These might be the 2200 series motors, but they're unbranded and they're unmarked. We just have to pull this motor apart and do some testing to really find out, but the suspicions are that they are 2200 series motors. Now, the frame itself, it is a 215mm from motor to motor to motor center to motor center, but it is 3K carbon fiber, which is also really cool, and it should be nice and sturdy. You're also going to be able to get parts for this one. The frame kit is already out on the GearBest website, so that's good. No waiting 2 to 3 weeks for parts. This is all in stock right now as the making of this video. It also has replaceable arms on here. If you do lose an arm or break an arm, you can get more arms on the website, which is also kind of nice. And you can see the hardware on here looks pretty good, and they have extra large bolts going through the arms into the motors. I did go over these with a driver, and they were just a little bit loose, but you want to pull those out, maybe put a little tiny dab of Loctite on those just to make sure they're secure. I would definitely do that. But on the top of the frame, I did notice when I pulled the top off, it does have 4 screws on the very top of this frame, so it makes it super easy to get in here to your receiver if you need to get in here and do some work on the flight controller, or you need to bind up your Frsky receiver. And also, as another tip for this quad, you want to do a little zip tie around the arm. Don't do it on top of the ESC, do it to the right hand side of the ESC around the arm, and just secure this battery cable right here, because if this gets ripped off, it's going to destroy the tabs on your flight controller and your ESC combo. Now over here on this side, this is cool. There is a beeper on there, so it's already built-in beeper. And if we look over here on the left-hand side of the quad, you can see that's an MMCX connector for the VTX right there. That's really, really nice that they have that on there. It comes down and around and under right here. That's not my favorite spot for this to hook up, because I think this can probably break off and shear off. I usually don't like to do a vertical mount antenna on any quad, but you can move this. There is a printable part that you can put right back here, and there's a space back here. It's very similar to the floss style TPU mount. This will have your antenna coming off the back right here, and it'll bend because it's TPU and it won't break. But this VTX is part of the stack, and it's 30.5 by 30.5 standard mounting size, so you can take this off and put it on another type of setup. That's pretty nice there. It's actually the same exact size footprint as your 4-in-1 ESC flight controller in there. That's kind of neat. And if you look at this entire frame from the side, you can see how low profile this whole thing is. It's super low profile, and we do have 4mm thickness in the arms right there, so that's kind of standard. And also, to shave a little more weight off this quad, they did do low profile nuts, and they are aluminum, so be careful over tightening those. You don't want to strip those, but they do shave off just a little more weight by making them low profile nuts. Now the video transmitter on here, it is the Holybro ATL, I believe, running. It's 5.8, and it's running a standard 40 channel set, but they do have channels 5645 and 5945. It says that they're illegal in a lot of countries, so they don't work. If you go to those channels, they're not going to work, just to let you know. It also transmits power pit mode, which is super nice, 0.5 milliwatts, so you can go super low. You can sign up to the channel that you need to do without disturbing other racers next to you. You're not going to push anyone's video off the screen. Now you can go up to 25, 100, 200, 400, and 600 milliwatt with that, but super nice that it does use that MMCX connector instead of the IPEX little tiny ones that always kind of wear out and break on me. So I'm super happy that we have that larger style connector on there. A lot of the transmitters this year, I hope to see more MMCXs on those transmitters. Now the current price on the Futon 2 on the GearBest website is like $200, and that's not too bad for a Maiden Flight 5-inch racer with all these components on here. But what's also cool is that my Firefly camera on here, it does shoot 1080p at 30 frames per second and 720p at 30 frames per second, but it only weighs like 14 grams, which is kind of amazing. 14 grams is not much for a little sport cam on there shooting 1080p. That's kind of what I've been looking for the last couple years. I really don't want to fly something as heavy as a GoPro, because I think it really affects the flight performance of a quad, and kind of I can feel that weight on there. If you're doing freestyle, you definitely want a lightweight camera, and this camera is only like $25 on the GearBest website, which is kind of crazy. I would probably scoop up a couple of these before they're all gone. 14 grams is awesome, and the fact that it does shoot 1080p and 720p at 30 frames per second is absolutely totally acceptable, much better than your DVR footage. Now this is the little box for the Firefly, and you do get some instructions in here. It shows you the weight and recording options there, safety guidelines. It shows you the features of the camera itself, the reset button, there's a little mini USB port, the micro SD card port. It does say that it does support up to a 32 gigabyte micro SD card, so that's kind of nice that it does that. It has the power on and off button, it has the modes button, and it does have a charging light on there, so when it's totally full, the light goes out on the camera. And like I said, that takes around 2 hours to charge. And it does say in the manual that it does record up to 15 minutes, and it stops the file and starts a new file every 15 minutes. I also noticed in this manual, which is super cool, that they might come out with new firmware updates for it, so all you have to do is pop out your micro SD card, put the firmware on your micro SD card, put it back in the camera, and fire up the camera, and it'll automatically update, kind of like a GoPro Hero 5 does. And they do have a website listed here. It's www.cnfpv.com for new firmware updates and files to download. But this is the box that it comes with, and inside the box you do get some extra accessories, which is kind of nice. You get a little flat GoPro style mount here, and you get a clip that goes into that. You also do get a little post here for screwing it in place, and you get a swivel mount for a tripod. This is kind of nice that you do have this option. And the last accessory that comes in the box is this tiny little mount right here. This will allow it to mount to a tripod. This is super nice. It has two little clips on each side, and it just snaps on the bottom of this existing camera mount, so you can put it on a mini tripod or a full-size tripod. That's kind of a neat little accessory that comes along with the camera. So here you're looking at the accessories that came along in the box with the Futon 2. I have my spare parts list here with listing all the parts, and those are already available on the GearBest website, which is super awesome. If I break any of these parts, I can already get an extra frame kit, which is great. I get 2 sets of props in here, and these look to be redesigned from the other Futon props. These are actually 5048 props. You also get a RunCam support card and the user manual download website address on here. Just go to runcam.com to find out more information about your RunCam Micro Swift. And you get some information in here about the specs on your quad, the features, and the flight controller link for a QR code, which is super great. So if you want to learn about that Kahoot flight controller, you can find out all about that on the Holybro website. And you also have information on here about binding up your FrSky receiver that came along with it. It is an S-Bus receiver, and you have to bind that up D16, 1 through 8 channels on there. So that's the way you want to set that up. And for your fail-safe mode, set that to no pulses, so that when your receiver loses reception back to your quad, that it automatically fail-safes and falls to the ground. That's usually the way I have it set up. Now down below, we also have the Holybro information for the QR code for the manual for the Atlo HV VTX. You can go there and learn all about that super powerful 600 milliwatt transmitter, or down to 25 milliwatt if you want to. It has information on what's also included in there. You do get the 5D OSD menu cable for your RunCam Micro Swift, which is over in my bag over there. But it's just like a little joystick controller that plugs into the back of the camera on the right hand side. Now this is the original Futon that came out last year, early last year, and we're at 258.7 grams, so it is lighter than the new Futon 2. We're going to see how that power to weight ratio works out for us though. Let's go ahead and set the Futon 2 on there. We're getting 321.6 grams with the props on there. So the quad is all set up. We're going to go ahead and do some line of sight flying, and after that we'll do some FPV. And the battery I'm going to use today for the line of sight flight test is going to be a Tattoo R-Line 1300. This is a 4S 95C battery, so a very, very nice battery with a good power to weight ratio out of this performance of this quad. I think we're going to be expecting some pretty good punch outs, and we'll see how well it sounds from the GoPro. We'll see if these motors sound smooth running D-Shot 600. It also is capable of running D-Shot 1200 as well on those ESCs. So 32-bit BL Heli ESCs, 30 amp, not bad. Here we go. All right guys, here we go, the Maiden Flight. Couple throttle bumps here for you. It's in acro and air mode right now. Let's go ahead and bring it over while we got a fresh battery and do a punch out. Holy crap. It's so dark today, I'm having a hard time bringing it back. It's a really nice punch out on this power setup. Wow. It's not playing around. Sounds really smooth. Let's just bring it over a little closer and listen to the motors. Really nice. I love that the Firefly is so tiny. That Kahoot does have a floating gyro in there that's mounted, and I did notice that it's mounted with a smaller type of foam in there. It almost looks like it's a piece of VHB, because we did have a floating gyro on there before in one of my reviews, and I showed you guys to put, I believe it was one of the Furibee models as well, running a similar type of F4. We put VHB on there and it smoothed out everything. Might have been the X215 version 2, I believe. Sounds really good here. This is going to be a lot of fun to fly. Super nice. Really enjoyable to fly this one line of sight. Doesn't have any weird twitches or any problems. Now if you're flying in acro, you still do have some gyro assistance, by the way guys. Some people think that that's totally manual, but it's not quite full manual flying. You do have some gyro assistance, even in acro. Smooths everything out. Very nice. Let's go ahead and set this Futon 2 down. I've got to do some FPV with this, guys. I think this is looking like a really, really, really good quad. I'm really excited about it. Here we go. So as expected from my original line of sight flight test, the FPV session went absolutely amazing. It flew super smooth. The throttle inputs were really great. The gyro didn't do a lot of wandering, which I was really afraid of. The only time that it did seem to wander was when I was inverted with a little bit of power in the motors. I did see a little bit of wander on the yaw axis, but other than that, I had total control over this quad. Low down to the ground, and as I'm coming over the trees, I had plenty of control coming back around to go underneath the tree and have tons of power left over to just boost back out of that maneuver. So I feel like I had total control doing my tree loops, and it actually does fly amazing. So I'm feeling like this is a great candidate for the quad of the year this year. This is going to be definitely in the top 5 so far that I've flown this year. It's May 2018 right now, and this is one of the absolutely best bind and fly quads out there by Helifar. So Futon 2, 2 hands down, 2 thumbs up to Helifar. The original turtles that they made a couple months ago was awesome, and I kind of expected the same out of the Futon 2. So I'm very excited that my original Futon can now kind of just probably hang on the wall. So I'm going to be flying this one all summer this year, and I look forward to more flights. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the Firefly micro action cam footage. Hopefully that turned out decent, but for $25, who cares? Buy one of these and put it on any quad you own, micro brushless or 5-inch racer. 14 grams is awesome for a little tiny sport cam at 1080p, 30 frames per second. So anyway, guys, thanks again for watching this review. If you're out in the field and other people need help, please do help others. As always, support people getting into the hobby and give back to the community. So thanks again for watching, you guys. I'm Justin Davis. It has been my pleasure to review the Futon 2 for you guys. Hope you enjoyed watching it. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.